Hello everyone, welcome to today's tutorial class, and today I'm going to focus on independent t-test. Independent t-test is also called the student t-test. So if you see the two anywhere, they mean the same thing. So the reason why we conduct independent t-test is to compare two independent samples or two groups. So two groups, what are some of the examples? Like you want to compare the results of female students against male students, or you want to compare the results of developed countries against developing countries. You want to compare the results of two countries, one being United States, US, and one being Nigeria. Or you want to compare Australia against Canada. So these are some examples. So basically, we have two types of independent t-tests. The two types are the equal variance and unequal variance mean t-test. What does this mean? It means that when you look at the spread of the data set, you look at the differences in the variances or the spread of the data set. If there is no difference and the variances are the same, then you can conduct an independent t-test for that. And you can also conduct an independent t-test where there's a situation where the spread is different. In other words, where there's a difference between the two. So we'll see them very soon. Assumptions. When do we conduct independent t-tests? What assumptions do we look at? Normally, when you have a normality test, when your data set is normally distributed. And then when your scale is interval ratio. But it doesn't mean you cannot apply independent t-test for an ordinal scale. You can also do that. Now, in this example here, I have two groups of data sets, as you can see from here. I have right wing and left wing. In a democratic country or dispensation, we normally have, like, let's take the US, Ghana, Australia, and many countries. We normally have two main groups of political parties, the ones that we call the right-wing parties and the left-wing parties. Where do we get these names from? Actually, if you read the French Revolution, so those of you who want to go into this, I've read this many times, you can read about the French Revolution, about King Louis the 16th, how he was executed, he was killed, and then it sparked the French Revolution, or during that time he was killed. So normally, the people who were opposing the monarchy in French, they are normally called the right-wingers. A typical of a right-wing party is the Democratic Party in the US. If you come to Ghana, there is a party called the NDC, National Democratic Congress. If you go to South Africa, there is ANC, the African National Congress. If you come to Australia, there is a party called the Labour Party. These parties are left-wing parties. They normally favor social justice and social equity. And then we will normally have what we call the right-wing parties. These right-wing parties were those who were sitting at the right-hand side of the king. And these people favor or support the monarchy or the king, King Louis the 16th. Normally, these parties favor businesses and they tend to be more conservative. So a typical example of a right-wing party is the Republican Party in the US. Currently, President Donald Trump is considered as a right-winger. If you come to Australia, there is a party called the Liberal National Party. In Ghana, there is a party called the National Patriotic Party, NPP. And if you go to the UK, there is a Conservative Party. These parties tend to be what we call right-wing parties. Okay, so I have assembled a number of policies that these parties put out there. So in this case, I've taken just one country, a country called, I assume the country is called country X. And that in that country, at a point in time for 8 years, that means in a democratic country, 4 years, these parties got opportunity to rule for 8 years. That's 2 terms. So the right-wing party, these are the number of policies that they put out there within the 8 years. And these are the policies that when the left-wing party got opportunity, this is also the number of policies that they put out there each year. Okay, so here I'm going to hypothesize that there's no differences between these two ideologies or parties. In fact, whatever they do, whatever they rule, the results tend to be the same. And you can give this example back in most developing countries. But some also say that no, there are differences when these two parties get opportunity to rule the country. So I'm going to do a test. So these two groups, I'm going to do a test. In this test, I'm going to conduct it in this Excel, and then I also conduct it using SPSS. So without wasting time, let's go. So how do you go about it? So when you have your Excel open like this, and you want to analyze that there is a two pack which Excel has incorporated into the Excel system, which can help you to do this. So to do this, you go to the file, you click on file, and then when you click on file, you come to, on your extreme left-hand side, come down, you see more options. When you click more options, it will give you these two options, account and options. Select or click on options. When you click on options, this will open. And then when this open, on the left-hand side, come down and select add-ins. So add-ins. And then when you select the add-ins, just come down here and then click go. When you click go, it will open this box for you. When they open this box, when you see this, just click on the analyze two pack. Here, I've already ticked it. So if it's on tick, you can tick it to tick. Okay, then once you do that, you just click OK. Once you do that, then you are good to go to start your analysis. So you go back to this part of the Excel, you click on data or data. And then when you click on data, you go to the extreme hand side, right hand side of it, you see data analysis, but I don't know how your Excel is structured. So when you see it, just click on data analysis. So when you click on data analysis, you see this coming out. So as I mentioned, there are two forms of independent t-text where you assume that the sample variances are equal, or the population variances of the sample are equal, or you assume that they are unequal. So I'm going to conduct the two, and we'll see that we'll not see much differences between the two in this context because we don't have much data set or responses or observations. So first, you come down and then you just click t-test to sample assuming equal variances. Then you click OK. So once you click OK, to open this for you. And then with the first range, because you are comparing two groups, you just select everything here. Don't forget we are comparing the right-wing policies and then the left-wing policies. And then you do the same for the left wing up to this. And then now you click labels, because normally you see that the labels have not. Labels here means it will come with the results where the right wing and the left wing will show with other labels which are important. Then with the alpha, this is the significance level. It depends on you. Normally it's the default is 5%, but if you want to change it or if you want to increase it, it's up to you. So any of them is acceptable. Now, once we have all these things done, we hypothesize that the mean difference, in other words, the null hypothesis, we assume that there's no difference, which is 0. So you can put 0 here, or you can decide not to put anything there. It will be okay. We assume that there's no differences between them, there's no significant differences between the variances or the means. Okay, then the output. So the output is up to you to choose the output. Either you can create entirely new sheet where you can go and put the output, or you can just put it somewhere here. So here I'm going to just put it by the two samples. So I'm just going to select here and then just click OK. So once I click OK, I get a resource. So you can report this resource in your work. And let's see what is coming out and just interpret them briefly. So we can see here that the mean, if you are just going to look at the mean, then you can see that on the average, the left wing parties or party tend to put out better, or if it's more, you can say more policies, but if it's better, you say better policies than the right-wing parties, if you are going by the mean. But the variance, when you look at the variances, there is a significant difference between the left wing and the right wing. Now, we want to know whether there is any significant difference between that, and we do that by using the T statistic or the T statistic and also the one tail and then the two tail. So the one tail, what we are seeing here is that the significance level for the one tail is 1.76. Oh, sorry, the p-value is 0.289. 0.289. Don't forget, we assume that our significance level is 0.05. That means this figure, the p-value of the one tail is far higher. And when your p-value is higher than the significance level, then what you have to do is that you have to rather accept the null hypothesis. But if our answer was to be that our p-value was less than, maybe let's assume we got something like 0.00006, which is less than 0.005, then we will reject the null hypothesis. But in this case, we will accept the null hypothesis. And the null hypothesis is saying that there's no significant difference between the two ideologies. Then when we also use the two tail, okay, so the two tail, the one tail is normally used when you assume that one is greater or one is less. Maybe let's assume that you say that the right wingers are better than the left wingers. That's what you have already assumed. But in this context, we are assuming that there's no significant difference. So we don't know whether one is greater or less. So it's better to use the two tail. So with the two tail, the p-value is also saying the same. The p-value is 0.578768,126, which is also far higher than the significant value of 0.05. Therefore, we will rather accept the null hypothesis, which says that there is no significant difference between the two ideologies. Okay, so let me also assume a situation where we assume that we have unequal variances. Unequal variance. And let's see how the results will look like. So here, I'll come here and select the two sample assuming unequal variances. I'll click OK. And then go and select the sample. So first with the right wingers, the right wing data. Then second, I'll select the left wing data. And here the same labels, alpha, which is the significance level, is 5.5%. And then here too, we also assume that there's no significant difference between them, even though they don't have the same variances. So where am I going to put this? So let me put it somewhere here. Let me put it somewhere close to this and see what the results will look like. So what are we seeing here? So what we are seeing here is that it seems we are also getting similar results as we got for the situation where we assumed that they had equal variances. It's almost the same, or it's almost the same here. So yeah, so the one tail is 0.29, which is higher than the 0.05, therefore we accept the null hypothesis. And then the two tails 2.200985, which is also higher than the significance 0.581182, 0.581182, which is also higher than the 0.05. Therefore, we will accept the null hypothesis, saying that there's no significant difference between the two ideologies. Okay, but it's not always going to be the same. as you can see from this results, because it's in this context, we have a limited number of observations, or the sample size is small. But if you deal with a bigger sample size, it's possible you may get a different results. Yeah, you get a different results. Okay, good. Now let me translate this into SPSS. So let's assume you don't want to use the Excel, but rather you want to use the SPSS to conduct this. How do you go about this? Very simple. So when you go to the Excel, so I've done this in the Excel. So the year 1, 2, 3, up to 8, first for the right wingers, and then also the same year 1 to 8 of course for the left wingers. So the number of policies, as we can see from here, okay. So if I copy the same, I can put the same thing here. Okay, good. And then I can also copy the same thing also from here. Okay, so I have them. So what next? So the next thing is to differentiate between the ideologies. So one of the ways by which you can differentiate between the ideologies is that when you come here, first you can decide to just put 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, let me remove the decimals, make it 0. Yeah, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 here. You have to label the 1, 1, 1, what the 1, 1, 1 represent, and then the 2, 2, 2 is what the 2, 2 represent. In this context, I made the 1, 1, 1 represent based on our data set from the Excel for the right wingers, and then the left wingers were the 2, 2, 2, 2. How did I do that? So when you come to variable view, you can do that in the values. Okay, so there's a way to do this. You can add this and do it. Okay, good. So I have my this, and I'm going to analyze. So to analyze this, I'll go to this part of the SPSS, click on Analyze, and then come down and select Compare Means and Proportions. Then I will just click on Independent Samples T-Test. Independent Sample T-Test, because here we assume that the two samples are independent on their own. Okay, so I'm going to put these things here. Okay, yeah, so here I'm analyzing the policies of the two factions or the two ideologies. So policies, and then when it comes to what is the grouping, what is differentiating between the two, the ideologies, whether they are right wing or left wing. Okay, so here I'm going to define them. So if you have not defined them already, you can define them. Okay, especially when you are dealing with a large data set, you can define them here. So group 1 and group 2. And here I know what the group 1 is for, or group 2 is for, right? Okay, so, okay. And then I just click on this. Now let's see, let's look at the results. So you can see from here that we are getting the same mean as we got it in the Excel, the same standard deviation, and then the same standard errors, just like how we saw it in the Excel sheets. And then let's look at the independent sample t-test. So as I mentioned, the independent sample t-test, we can look at it from the equal variances or unequal variances. So if you look at the equal variances and then you go down to the test, the t-test for the equality of the means, you can see that both our one sample t-test and then the two-sided t-test, they all have p-values which are higher than the significance level of 0.05. Therefore, we will accept the null hypothesis. And it's almost the same thing that we got. It's the same. Okay, 0.289, and then here 0.57. It's the same. 0.289 and 0.57. The same. Now, when we also assume that the variances are not equal or they are not the same, this is the result that we are getting, which the two p-values, whether it's a one tail or a two tail, is also telling us that they are more than 5%. Therefore, we will accept the null hypothesis. So thank you very much for this. And it's good that you have been able to follow me since we began this whole statistics analysis. So far, what we have done is one sample t-test. We have also looked at a situation where we have one sample t-test and the normality assumption has been breached. And in that case, you use one sample Wilcoxon sign rank test. We did that, so you can check it on my YouTube channel. And then today we have looked at the independent sample t-test. In my next video, I'm going to take you through a situation where you have also two groups or two samples, and then the normality test and other assumptions have been breached. So what do? So I'll introduce you to what we call the Mann-Whitney U-test, Mann-Whitney t-test, which is good for a situation where the normality test has been breached on trying to compare two groups or two samples. So I wish you all the best and have a good one. Bye.